So my name is Jeff Patterson. I started Gaggle 26 years ago.
Oh,
I was just born an entrepreneur. I
yeah.
started selling things when I was 4 years old. My family laughed at me when I said, I'm going to sell these rocks. And I went door to door and I sold a couple.
Hey.
So lots of mediocre businesses didn't really go anywhere until I started Gaggle. I only had a real job for 1 year of my life. I had a real job. I worked as an investment banker. It was like prison.
hmm Wow. That's amazing. Very interesting synchronicities here. My last guest was his business is 26 years old and he was an investment banker for 1 year as well.
Ah, ah.
Weird.
He felt my pain.
Weird synchronicities, yeah. Awesome. So how did you stumble upon the idea that is Gaggle?
Hmm. So obviously, we in 26 years, you have to keep pivoting, right? You can't
Yeah.
be one thing. This world moves too fast. 27 years ago, I was at a conference for teachers. I had some educational software products I developed for teachers. And I was then standing at the booth, and this teacher walked up, and I just happened to ask her, "Are you using email with your students?" And she said, "No, no, my school would never let the kids have an email account." Entrepreneurs asked the why question. So I said, "Why? Why is that?" And she said, "Well, who would they talk to? How do we make sure that it's safe? Right? How can we control it?"
Mm.
Entrepreneur, right? Said, "I'll solve that problem." Because I was looking at the world at that time, we were, you know, I don't even know if you were even born yet, Chris, but like people, email was allowing us to communicate and collaborate with people around the world. And it's writing, it's communicating, it's thinking. Why wouldn't we let kids use this type of tool? So the very first version of Gaggle was Hotmail, where the teachers were in control.
Mm. Okay. Nice. What was it about this problem that got you so motivated and focused?
Um, Probably more of a, I think like a lot of entrepreneurs, we see and hear about a problem and we have an idea on how to solve it. And that's kind of how we're wired,
Mm.
right? We're looking for ways to make a difference and to solve problems. Um, Maybe it makes sense for me to tell you what Gaggle does now. Um,
Sure. Yeah, please do.
so along the way, we realized that what they didn't, customers didn't love our platform. They didn't love our email and our document collaboration, all that, our blogs. They loved our safety. And so what we do now is we put our safety inside of other tools. So, for example, virtually every student across the United States and probably the world at this point is getting either a Google Workspaces account or a Microsoft Office 365 account. That's email, that's document editing, creating, collaboration, texting, or chat, right? Calendars, all those tools. So Gaggle sits behind those tools looking for concerning issues: bullying, threats of fighting, weapons at school, depression, and anxiety. Um, but it's best, I think people learn best through a story. So I'll tell you a story. Chris, I hope you don't mind. It's not a happy story, but it
hmm
ends as well as it can.
Okay.
So one Friday evening, a middle school boy in New Jersey pulled out his school provided Chromebook and he started creating a Google document that said, "I'm tired of faking my feelings. I have no one who loves me, not even my family. My only choice left is suicide." So again, we sit behind these tools. The email passes through us. The documents we're pulling in on a really an immediate basis as soon as they're edited. When this document got to our system, the technology highlights things that are concerning. Then we have a human safety team that's reviewing that 24 hours a day. Safety person saw this and immediately called the school. The principal started calling home when the assistant principal called the local authorities. When the principal got a hold of parents, they said, what are you talking about? Our son is fine. We just finished dinner. He's upstairs in his room. But when they went to look, he wasn't there. And that is why it's important that the assistant principal got a hold of the authorities, because in this town in New Jersey, the trains run through on their way to New York City. And there's a spot where two kids had previously jumped in front of the train. they found this boy walking in that spot, and the whole story happened in about 15 minutes. Um, Last school year, we made over 22,000 emergency phone calls, and about 1,100 of those are so serious we considered, like this one, a life saved. So
Wow.
that's what Gaggle does.
Yeah, that's amazing. It saves lives.
We try to save lives and lifetimes. I often tell people that when a student is so unhappy that they're cutting themselves, living with depression, anxiety, or bullying, they're not going to mature into a fully functioning adult, and it's a
Hmm.
lifetime lost if we don't get that early.
Hmm. Now, like someone writing, that they're going to harm themselves or unalive themselves, that's obvious. And you're like, oh, we got to do something about this. Is there some way to read between the lines and kind of pick up? Because they probably know if I write something that direct, that it's going to get me in trouble or noticed or the authorities called. Is there a way, are there sort of subtle flags that Gaggle can also pick up on?
Um, there are, right? It gets a little tricky because kids, speak in sarcasm, right? We all do,
Yeah.
in fact. And a lot of the problems aren't as obvious and so obviously serious. But again, we're looking for bullying, right? We're analyzing pictures, so we all often see, unfortunately, kids uploading pornographic images of themselves or friends. Um, we find out abuse at home. Um, lots of different really scary things that sort of maybe start small but escalate.
Mm. Hmm. Got it.
We also,
Uh,
in addition to those emergency calls, we probably sent about 420,000 emails about concerning items that were not immediate or urgent.
mhm. Okay. Got it. That's awesome. So how did you grow Gaggle? How did you convince these customers that they needed this and it would help and save lives and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so it's worth noting that when I started the company, I tried to raise venture capital, but no one would trust me. But I was a young, stubborn entrepreneur, and I just started building the company. So we never took any outside capital. I'm a sole owner. We're about 160 employees.
Wow.
I actually believe in a business philosophy called evergreen. An
Hmm.
evergreen business, it's not about the exit, right? That's how so many entrepreneurs measure themselves. Oh, I had a successful exit, right? It's about the journey. It's about making a difference in the world. In our case, for students and schools and my staff. And so I often tell people my exit strategy is a coffin. I'm a member of a CEO group called Tugboat. It's about 250 CEOs that are similar to mine, people who are just driven by the work that they're doing. Profit's important, but mission and people are also important. And some of these companies are fourth and fifth generation companies. So it's a very different mindset than the typical Silicon Valley VC grow big fast or blow up, right? It's really about how you can make a difference and impact the world. Um,
Hmm.
that's not the answer. That's not the question you asked. You want to ask any questions about that, or should I move on to the question that you really asked?
Hmm. Um, yeah, what can you tell me about your philosophy of you'll finish when you're dead?
Yeah. So some more about that is, again, I'm driven by this purpose and mission, and I also believe that we're going to sell the company. I could sell the company, and probably my grandkids would never have to work.
Mm.
But if I'm not working, I need to have purpose too. And just sitting around on a beach is not going to satisfy me. That's not going to give me purpose and meaning. And
Yeah.
then I think about if my family inherited just a bunch of money without purpose as well, that it's going to bring out the worst in them. I'm going to ruin my grandkids if I leave them a bunch of money. So I don't
Mhm.
want to just leave them money. I want to leave them some worthwhile responsibilities.
Mhm. Okay, awesome. So your family is also in the business?
They're not yet. I have three daughters, and they're scared out of their mind to basically have to be responsible for this company.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of different ways to structure it. There's a company in my group they're probably 800 million in revenue. I think they're going down the third generation, and there's professionals, managers of the company, and the families of board of directors that oversees the company to make sure the purpose and the mission and the culture is maintained. And that's where I think I want my daughters to be involved. If they want to get involved in the company, that's great, but they need to go out and make their way in the world first.
hmm Okay, cool. So they'll go out and get experience before you let them work with you and Gaggle?
Yeah. Yeah. So one's a software engineer, one's a process engineer for a consulting firm, and then the other
hmm
is still in college.
Cool. Cool. That's great. I really respect that philosophy. That's responsible and caring on so many levels.
Yeah. So I think the original question you had was how did I convince customers to embrace this?
Yeah.
It's still going. I think what helped in the beginning was we were that web-based platform with, safety as our secret sauce. And it's actually one of the customers that came to us and said, Jeff, I really like Gaggle, but I'm going to try this Gmail thing. Can you put your safety inside of Gmail? So being an entrepreneur, you always say yes, right? And I heard the speaker one time and said, your job as a CEO is to say yes to things that your company doesn't know how it's going to deliver. And as CEO, I have to know it's possible, but how we're going to do it, we have to work out. So I said yes, and that was really the first customer for our what we call safety management. Um, then it's a matter of going around talking to customers, schools, and districts, and sometimes we do pilots or safety audits, some way for them to see what was really going on. Because even today, there's a number of schools that they don't want to acknowledge what might be inside these tools.
hmm Okay, awesome. And your customer is the school itself, the school district. Who's the decision maker?
Primarily, it's the school district, so we will sell to individual schools.
hmm
The the decision maker is an interesting one. Right? There's who it is and who it should be. So currently, our decision maker is the technology department, the chief technology officer, director of technology. Problem is, and the reason is because we're in technology, we're layered on top of the Google environment. The tech people are responsible for it. The problem is they're not the user of the product. The user of the product is going to be school counselors and principals. And really, the decision makers should probably include the superintendent. It should include the school safety and security department, and it should include the student services, the counselors, and the psychologists. Um, so we really have to sell across an enterprise, which means lots of different stakeholders.
hmm Okay, got it. How do you get on their radar and how do you convince them this is an investment worth making?
So when you're talking about depression, anxiety, suicide, child pornography, it's really a tough conversation. You almost have to develop that relationship and the trust first. So we do a lot of in-person events, really across the United States. We do phone calls and cold calls and do webinars and do that whole thought leader marketing thing. But primarily, it's about building those relationships and that trust.
hmm Okay, nice. That's smart. Um, that's awesome. This is such a unique business. We don't um often talk to folks who are dealing in their client is public sector and the education department in America just when I was a kid it seemed pretty brutal and it seems to have just
It's gotten more
continued.
brutal, Chris.
Yeah. Yeah.
It even seems like I've thrown you off a bit.
Yeah, well, I'm just trying to take it all in. And yeah, that's I think that really shows your focus and tenacity that this problem, you saw that it not only needed to be solved, but that you were willing to work hard enough in a um frustrating industry to make it happen. And that's that to me is the truest expression of entrepreneurship. Like, to me, an entrepreneur is a problem solver, and some problems are harder and more important than others. And I worked for the government. I worked for NASA for 2 years, and I was like, NASA, cool, space, but it's very bureaucratic and very slow and very frustrating, and I can't believe I even lasted that long. So
You're a
kudos
rocket
to you, sir.
scientist in a cubicle, it sounds like.
I wish I was in the budget office. I was a budget analyst.
Okay.
Uh, uh, Easily as exciting as it sounds. Awesome. Well, I have one final question for you, Jeff. It's an open-ended question. You can take it in any direction that you like. You may have already answered it, but I love to ask this to just see what my guest is thinking. The question is, what are you working towards?
Oh, I'm working towards. Well, I'll tell you, our mission is ensure the safety and security of students and schools using people and technology. That's a broad thing, right? Um, but I'll put it this way. I often tell people I hate my own company. They're like, what are you talking about, Jeff? Gaggle saves lives, right? And I tell people, we're like your friend that comes over to your barbecue, and you've got three dogs, and I'm that friend standing in the grass pointing out the dog poop, right? Well, duh, you've got three dogs. Of course, there's me poop in the grass, right? Pick up a shovel and solve the problem. Likewise, you take any 30 high school kids, you know that there's a certain number that are suicidal and others that are depressed, that are harming themselves. They're being bullied. They're having abuse at home, right? These problems exist. The fact that we're pointing them out doesn't solve those problems. And so where I'm really trying to move us towards is towards a complete solution, right? Where we help those students. And about 5 years ago, we launched a teletherapy program where we pair licensed therapists with kids. And that's really just the beginning of where I want us to go. I really want us to be part of the solution to the mental health, not just pointing out which
Mhm.
kids need the most immediate help.
Wow, that's that's amazing. That's such a powerful next step, and that makes perfect sense as an extension of Gaggle. Awesome, man. Thank you for doing what you're doing. That's my middle school self. That's tough. I think that's a tough time for basically everybody.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
we see the highest percentage of incidents.
yeah, yeah. I think most of the issues I talk about in therapy probably stem from somewhere around that period.
Hmm. There's a quote you might like, Chris. I heard this. Your family knows how to push your buttons because they installed the buttons.
That's a fact. Where can my audience find out more about you and Gaggle?
So you can find out about Gaggle at gaggle.net. Um, and about me, I'm very active on LinkedIn. Although, did you know there's a limit to 30,000 connections you can have, which I have virtually maxed out.
Oh
So
wow.
folks can follow me where I actually post jobs in the ed tech industry every week. So I'm trying to give it back as well, to help people find their next job. And then when I have something that seems insightful or well, I like to insight things too. I will post occasionally as well about some craziness that I see and some opinions.
Hmm. Awesome. How'd you max out your LinkedIn connections?
So it goes back to COVID. So in the first month of COVID, if you remember, it was just scary. People were losing their
Oh
job,
yeah.
severance. They're frightened. And I knew my company had a couple open positions. I knew a few other companies that did. And I thought, the world just needs to see something positive. So I posted a few of the open positions in the industry that I knew about and got a great response. And I did it again about 2 weeks later. And now I can't get off that train. I think at post number 405. And it's basically just a way to give back. And so because of that visibility, people are constantly reaching out to me. And for a while, I would accept any connection within the education industry, or even a classroom teacher. And so I really just maxed out my connections. And so now I'm trying to push people to follow, which I think I'm somewhere around 145,000.
Okay. Wow. Incredible. Jeff, you are an inspiration, and you embody the true meaning of entrepreneurship, and the world is a better place having you in it, my friend. Thank you for doing everything that you do.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. To all our listeners out there, thank you so much for tuning in, and keep on growing out there, everybody. See ya.